I've been doing this for 22 years. I have all different types of families in my daycare. I have some that comes in at 6 o'clock in the morning that works to 8:30 at night. I have some that comes from 3:30 to 12:30 at night. I have some that comes in overnight. I see a lot of parents come in and break down. They don't want to do this, but they need to work and take care of their family.
That is a clip from a new film called Through the Night, the movie. It tells the story of a 24-hour daycare center near New York City, New Rochelle, and all the moms, some working several jobs, who take their kids there. Now, the timing of this movie particularly resonant right now, as the type of people depicted in it, they're getting hit particularly hard by this pandemic. Millions of service workers, they've lost their jobs. Unemployment crisis is causing up to 50 million Americans to struggle just to put food on the table. I want to bring in the director right now and producer of Through the Night, Lela Ali. She joins us and talk about timing of this. I know you've been working on this project for years before COVID was even, on anyone's radar right now. But as we get into it, I'm curious, how much harder, it was hard enough, these folks' lives, how much harder has it become for so many of them in the last 9 to 12 months?
Yes. Well, thank you for having us. Things are really hard. So everyone in the film is an essential worker. As you said, we started making the film many years ago. We started in 2016, so long before COVID-19 was on our front steps, on our doorstep. But, Shanona, who's in the film, is a pediatric nurse. Marisol, another person featured in the film, works for a supermarket supplier and has been working 6-7 days a week throughout the pandemic. And then Nunu and Patrick, who run this daycare at the heart of our film, have remained open this entire time. They are one of very few daycares that have remained open precisely because they care for the children of essential workers. So, think about the stress and sort of the exhaustion and the fear, the uncertainty that everyone is facing. I've been able to work from home. And so I sort of stop sometimes and think about them, if this has been stressful and difficult for me, being able to stay at home, thinking about, all of our frontline workers, right? And the stress, right, that they are under at this point, 9 months into this pandemic, with numbers rising yet again. And like you said, this is the community that is working low-wage jobs, which we now understand to be essential, and are facing, all of the hardship and really the brunt of the destruction and the devastation of this pandemic.
This project, and I'm going to show another clip in a minute, obviously very personal to you. You yourself, you talk about that you were raised by a single mom who had to work her fingers to the bone for you and your sister. You yourself also a single mom. And one of the hardest things when I talk to documentarians is to get the trust of the subject, or in this case, Dee's Tots, to trust you to really understand their story, first of all, and then to tell it the right way. Clearly, they did. I want to play a clip here. It's with the Thanksgiving Day parade, but it talks about the hopes of a lot of the folks that we see profiled in this film.
There are families out there that need help. They need a net, a financial net, a health net. They need a mental net.
The state don't help much when it comes to daycare providers. They don't really give you much. They just come out to see what they can cite you for. They don't want to pay for daycare. I wish that I had something much bigger where parents that really needs this, they can have it.
I learned a lot through this, but I was surprised by the numbers, and I thought I knew a lot, that almost 2 out of every 3 women with kids under 6, they're working, and 1 in 5 of them is making minimum wage, roughly. On top of that, I had no idea, but how expensive we're talking about, that It costs, you said, in certain states, to send a 3-year-old to daycare, it costs more than sending a kid to college at a state university. Talk about the razor's edge that so many of these moms are right on, where they're trying to, provide a better life for their kids, but they're spending almost whatever they're taking in just to get care for the kids.
So the razor's edge, I think, is really it signals a complete sort of failure on the part of our society and our governments to actually take into account and provide the safety net that parents and working families need. In terms of mothers and working mothers, we live in a society in which really you're expected, as a mother, you're expected to work as if you don't have children, and you're expected to mother as if you don't work, right? And there's very little support, very little acknowledgement for the needs of mothers and working families across the board. Our policies, when they come to childcare, in terms of government, policies often are focused on early childhood education. So there's a lot of conversation about, pre-K and universal, pre-K and kindergarten, and that's great and absolutely necessary. But what about, and what are you supposed to do when your children are from 0 to 4 or 0 to 5? And in that space of 0 to 4 and 0 to 5, you're kind of left to fend, for yourself. And what we have is a situation in which there's, a public good, a universal need that is not, accounted for by our government. And so you have a situation in which parents, and particularly single parents, are working multiple jobs to make ends meet. And then daycare providers themselves, the work is so undervalued and underpaid because it's sort of seen as women's work. And I say that in air quotes, deliberately, because it's obviously a problematic concept. But because it's seen as women's work, there have never been well-paid jobs in the sector. So providers themselves are operating on very thin margins, and which is what we've seen in COVID. Something like 60% of daycares in the United States have closed due to the pandemic, and many are not in a position to reopen. They simply could not weather this kind of crisis, operating on the thin margins that they were already operating on. So you have a situation that doesn't work for the providers, and it doesn't work for the parents. It really doesn't work for anyone.
One of the things the film does talks about the impossible decisions these parents got to make here, because obviously they'd rather be at home with the kids, but it's not an option, particularly for some of these single moms. At the end of the project, did you feel inspired by these women, or did you feel a little angry that they were put in this impossible situation that's a day after day reality?
I at the end of the project and continuously till today, I feel both. I feel inspired and enraged. I feel, the film is intended to be a love letter to single mothers and caregivers, precisely because the work is so undervalued or invisible. This film is intended to be a love letter that really lifts up the importance of this work and of these people. And I also hope that the film functions as an indictment of our economy, which is truly cruel and merciless. There's no reason in my mind why it's okay that people have to work multiple jobs to make ends meet. And even with multiple jobs, are still in a position where sometimes they have to choose between paying rent and buying groceries, on any given month. Like that, we've normalized that in our society, I think is deeply problematic. And it's something that I want more of us to be enraged by.
I said it off the top. It's so important, especially right now, this film. And for anybody out there who has got this idea that, people are sitting home eating Cheetos and drinking soda with their feet up, and they're looking for somebody to take care of the kids, just watch the film. and reality hopefully will sink in. Again, it's Through the Night, and we've brought up on our screen how people can check it out right now. And we have both the social media accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Details, as I said, right there on your screen. I cannot encourage you strongly enough to check it out. I appreciate the time, and I wish you the best of luck with the film.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to head to Capitol Hill. The folks who could do more, much more. We're going to get the very latest when it comes also to the COVID stimulus talks, what McConnell is saying now against President Trump, and a lot more. We'll be joined by our friend Rick Klein from ABC News.